talcum powder.
Joey, Joey, how I love you so. Joey, Joey, how I love you so.
Keep moving and rolling, the grind gets so near. If they come a knocking, I'll say you weren't here. And yeah, I am cool, man. I know the rock man with 2 snooker balls tied up in a sock, man. The real Slim Shady just stood up with one of his fingers on each hand up. And the streets are now empty, but the popo's still and there's me thinking I'm so insecure, and I am more qualified than Professor Green, and that little ginger's got nothing on me. So listen up, baby, the things I taught you. Who killed Smiley Culture?
Hi, I'm Bimo, and we're here today to grab a quick interview with the lovely singer-songwriter Emily Capell.
Hi, I'm Emily.
Emily, when did you first start playing guitar, and why guitar over any other instrument as opposed to violin or piano?
I was 11 when I started to play the guitar, and I got a guitar because my friend told me to get one. She was like, why don't you learn guitar? So I did.
And when did you start writing your own songs?
I started writing my own songs pretty much straight away. As soon as I got my guitar and learned my first chords, I started writing my own songs.
Can you remember the first song you wrote?
Yes, the first song I wrote was a song called Peter, about how I didn't want Pete Doherty to die, because I was the biggest Libertines fan ever who missed the Libertines. I was way too young for the Libertines, and so I just I caught Baby Shambles and Dirty Pretty Things, who were their bands when they split, and I wrote a song called Peter, and it was alright, it wasn't that bad. I don't play it anymore, but I've used the chords for another song, so I sort of do, I guess.
And where and when was your first gig in London?
My first gig, well, I did the open mic scene when I was 14. I was playing on my local open mic scene, but I don't think that really counts as a gig. So my first booked gig was either when I was on the open mic scene, I supported a band called The Rhythm of Soul, I think. And that was just local to me, but I guess proper London one was at the Fiddler's Elbow in Camden Town, and I must have been about 15.
And how did you feel about that first gig?
I'm so glad there aren't any photos. It was alright. I had the most stupid dress on in the world. My auntie owns a shop, and the clothes in there are great, but I just picked a really bad one. It was like silver. I looked like a beetle, not like John Lennon beetle, like literally a beetle, and it had bits coming off. So maybe a bit like David Bowie, or not. I don't think so. But yeah, it went really well. Other than that, it was good. But my first ever open mic that I did all my own songs. I didn't do any covers. And at the end, I freaked out, and I don't know why. I just stood there and saluted. So I basically just saluted my mum, who was sat there watching me. But yeah, it's always really cringy.
And when you started looking for places to play as an unknown female singer, did you feel at any time that venues and promoters never took you seriously enough? And was it hard to get gigs in London?
It's harder to get gigs out of London, I find, especially locally to me. But no, not really. I mean, in London, as soon as I started playing in London, after the Fiddler's Elbow, they sort of snowballed, and every promoter seems to work at different venues, and then you meet other promoters and go to different venues or whatever, and you have mates that do the circuit, so you play their nights. But I've never really had massive. I mean, I've got my song called Plastic, which is about being like always put on first.
I played in many different places, to many different faces, just like you. And I'll wear diamonds if you like, because it's something different for you. Like the bigger boys who take it. If I played naked, I would lose. And I know I'm not supposed to, but if I'm on the poster, then I guess we're through. Just because I'm acoustic, it doesn't mean I can't lose it like you. Just because this is plastic, you know what I mean? I can't be up there smashing it.
You know, I was always on early, and just because I was a girl with an acoustic guitar. But I found that at the venues where I live locally, for some reason they don't support their local bands maybe as much as they should. So I don't play there anymore.
Well, I'm pleased to say that you stuck with it and ended up playing numerous gigs in London. Can you tell us some of the places you did play?
Well, loads of them have gone now. I used to play the Regal Rooms, which is just up the road in Hammersmith, which is the Distillers pub, which was great. That was an acoustic place. That's when I was playing acoustically. And I mean, I've done them all, really, without sounding like a knob. I've done like the 12 bar, the old one and the new one. I mean, all of Denmark Street has basically gone, which is so heartbreaking. I played the Alley Cat before it went. I played the 100 Club. I've done the Barfly. Pretty much all of Camden Town High Street I've done. I've done like loads of Islington. East London is pretty big right now. I've done the Queen, Hoxton. I've done the Old Blue Last. And then because I have a band and I do it on my own, I've done the acoustic bit, and I've done sort of like the big band stages as well.
Well, I was about to say, as well as doing your solo gigs, you also go out with a full band called the Three Peat Suite. Can you tell us how you recruited the band and who plays what?
Well, we always joke that we met at school because they're older than me. Yes, I always say that we met at college, but I was working with a manager at the time, probably when I was about 21, and he was suggested a band, and so we auditioned them at the Enterprise studio, which is where the Sex Pistols apparently auditioned. I don't know, and apparently there's some little graffiti that Glenn Matlock wrote or something, but I couldn't find it. And the boys came, and we auditioned loads of really, really nervous students who were really good but played so fast. And then the Pete's came in, my Pete bass and Pete drums, and they auditioned, so they're all called Pete, that's why the Three Peat Suite, very funny. And then we just started gigging together, and our first gig we had was at the 333, which is Old Street. And then about a year into it, my drummer, Pete, said, I know a trombone player called Pete. And he just came to rehearsals one day, and luckily he liked our set list and our set, and so he agreed to stay.
I think the trombone sound fits really well. Was it a deliberate plan to include trombone in the band?
Well, as I said, because we didn't have a lead guitar, it worked really well because there was no sort of riff or hook in the songs, but now there is, so which he plays, and so it wasn't necessarily deliberate to go like down the brass route, but I'm glad that we did because it works apparently.
We hear that members of your family often show up at your gigs. Did your parents offer you much support for what you do, and do you think that it's important for a musician to have support from family and friends?
My mum hasn't missed a gig.
Wow.
Yeah, actually no, she didn't come last week, but otherwise she's been at nearly every gig. She didn't come last week. Well, my mum's a teacher and she had her Ofsted, so she couldn't come. But so My mum and dad are super, super supportive. I used to have a song that I played years ago called My Dad's a Smiths Fan, which my dad hated. Absolutely hated. So embarrassed by it. And so we don't play it anymore. But he was never like not supportive. And all my family are pretty into it. We have a video for our last single called Joey. And I've got dancers, and my nan is one of the dancers. She's bottom left. But and she's left-handed, so she was going the complete wrong way to everybody else. But yeah, so my family are very, very supportive. I'm super lucky that I have them.
Fantastic. Are fashion or clothes trends important to you? Or would you rather be known for being a good songwriter and performer?
I think that it's important to have both. Every band or singer that I look up to have dressed well or looked a certain way, and I sort of connect to the mod sort of look more. But yeah, I think that it helps, and also it's sort of like becoming a character without sounding like, you know, when Lady Gaga dressed as that man and it was like, what are you doing? Or Sasha Fierce and Beyonce. But it's like, it's important to look smart. You don't want to be one of those scruffy people that is rubbish. I don't know. But yeah, I think it's important to look smart.
You have an onstage image and beehive hairstyle that sets you apart from any current artist going around today. Do you feel that this look suits the style of music you do?
I've never really thought about it, whether it suits our music or not. I guess we just look different. I've never met anyone else that has a beehive haircut that's gigging now, but mine's like a nest. It's not even like a proper beehive. It's me in the morning. It doesn't look like this. But and my band all wear, for Perry's, we try and carry that mod stuff. We're super lucky that a company called the Mod Father in Camden Town help dress us, and they are so cool. But so yeah, I guess that. But you try not to. I know it sounds like a dickhead, but you don't really try to think about image. You try and do it that make it look as if you haven't thought about it, like you just dress like this anyway. But I don't look like this on a Monday morning.
Well, I think you carry it off very well, Emily, may I say. Okay, getting back to your songwriting, how would you describe your material, and does it fit with any particular music genre?
As a genre, yeah. I guess that we are. Everyone always tries to box you when you book a gig. They try and say what genre you are, or if they have a certain night. A lot of people think we're quite ska-y, like ska and reggae and offbeat because of the trombone. And I guess I naturally go offbeat. I'm one of those people that, like, if something goes wrong, I panic and go reggae because that's just what I naturally do. But we don't really have a genre, I guess, which is cool. You know, you don't have to fit in with a genre, do you?
To a box.
Yeah, you don't want it, really.
Emily, it's been mentioned that you aren't a huge fan of the songs that we hear going around today. Do you sometimes wish that you were born in another era?
No, because I wouldn't have all the influences that I have now. When I speak to people about music who are older than me, so who have been through different generations and lived through different generations of music, like music seems to be really hard to get hold of. And now I have the internet, I can just YouTube and find it, and which is so wrong as well, because the idea of like having a cassette and holding it next to a radio and like taping John Peel and all of that, I didn't have that, so I can just YouTube it, which I guess is so lazy. But my generation are like the generation of, we have it right now, so I can like Shazam something and find out what that song is, or I can go and I can go and on YouTube, as I said, or something like that. But it seems so much more romantic in the days of like going and finding a song on a jukebox. Like, we don't have that. But yeah, I guess that I don't think I was born in the wrong era in that way, but I wish that I had been around to gig at all the venues that we've lost, and have been to gigs and like, I know this is going to sound awful and I hope this doesn't make me sound like a right wally, but like earn money from music. Like my granddad tells me a story of this guy that used to go into their local pub and just play the piano and like earn from doing that. Like I can't earn from gigging really anymore. I hope that doesn't make me sound like a right wally, but like, yeah, I don't think I was born at the right era. I've got all the influences. I mean, I'm so lucky that I've got everything from Johnny Cash to the Arctic Monkeys. Yeah, I've got it all. So, not really, yeah.
And just for the record, Emily, I don't think you sound like a wally. Can you tell us about your influences or any particular singer or songwriter that you really admire and why?
So you know who I'm going to say. I say it all the bloody time. Joe Strummer is the best thing ever. All albums, I'm talking 101ers to the Mascaleros. I love Joe Strummer. I love everything he stood for. I see him with like a halo around his head and wings on his back. I think he's amazing. And I love The Clash, obviously. And Joe Strummer died when I was 10, so I completely missed it. And but I started playing the guitar when I was 11, so I sort of got that. So my influences started as when Joe died. Sort of I became musical and Joe died. And so, yeah, I'd definitely say Joe Strummer is the greatest person ever. But I mean, I love all genres. I really want to be able to have a conversation with every single person in the world about what music they like. So like, for example, last year I tried to get into acid house and it's shit, right? It's not, you have to have been at the Hacienda in baggy jeans and a tie-dye t-shirt in 1989, otherwise you don't get it, I think. And I've tried. I've actually stood outside the Hacienda and like I've read books on it, but who reads books on it? You've got to have been there. And so I try and listen to all music, but I don't like acid house and I don't like prog rock, but sorry to everyone who likes
Fair
that.
enough. You have a social media presence and a website. In your opinion, would you say it's important for any new and up and coming artist to have a social media presence as a means of self-promotion?
It is important, but I don't like it. Every time you do it, like if a promoter says or somebody says, oh, you should tweet this, you just think, oh, would Morrissey have done this? Like would you know, Paul Weller be like, but they might have done, you know, because they were so desperate when not desperate, but so eager to get out there that they didn't have it back then. But you just think, oh, really? Like, and you've got to have all of it. You've got to have Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud, YouTube, Instagram, all these things. I've probably missed out loads, and you've got to keep them all going at the same time. And who's interested? Who fucking cares? And like, but you've got to do it. But so I struggle with the whole point of, I can't imagine Morrissey sat there tweeting about his, or like even Liam Gallagher. Imagine but apparently he does have Twitter, but like when they were in the 90s, you know, running around Supernova Heights, he wasn't thinking, oh, I'll tweet this. You just look like a knob. But yeah, so it is important now, but it's slowly sucking the fun, I reckon.
Fair enough. More about the gigs you do, Emily. In October 2015, your band, the Three-Peat Suite, played in Amsterdam. How did this come about and what reaction did you get from the crowd?
We played in Amsterdam because we had a residency at Prowl Gallery in Camden Town. We were doing that monthly and someone just came up to us and said, do you want to play in Amsterdam? And we said yes. And we went out there and we did a festival and we supported Boney M. But it's not the Boney M that you love and remember. It's a Boney M tribute, but they were so good. I think it's got 1 or 2 members of the original Boney M. I think there's like 5 Boney M tribute acts working the scene right now. We got one of them. And yeah, it was good. We had to do a cover of a Beatles song though, just in case it all went tits up, because they love the Beatles out there apparently. So we did a really naff cover of Hey Jude, and just in case they started booing us, we had something, but they didn't. And yeah, it was good fun.
Did you play Hey Jude?
Yeah.
You did play.
I feel so sorry to any Beatles fans that were there. And thank God Paul McCartney went knocking about at the back, because it wasn't very cool.
Can you tell us here about any songs that you've recorded and mention some details about the EPs you have released? And are there any plans to do an album?
We have done, I did a solo EP called the Who Killed Smiley Culture EP. About 2 years ago, I did that. And then after that, I did a EP called the Who Framed Winston Silcott EP. And that had my drummer and my bass player on it. And then, but for some reason, I wrote the song Who Killed Smiley Culture after we released the Who Killed Smiley Culture EP. Mm-hmm. So that's why it gets really confusing. And then so it was Who Killed Smiley Culture, then Who Framed Winston Silcott, then a Who Killed Smiley Culture single, then a Joey single, and then a Joey EP, which had 6 tracks on it, including the Joey single. So towards the end, I started doing it in the right order, but to begin with, I just did it in my own order.
Sorry, the Smiley Culture one, was that an EP, the first one?
The first one was an EP, yeah, and then there was a single.
Okay, I've got you.
It was a bit all over the shop, but yeah, and then we did a Joey single and then a Joey EP, and the Joey single and EP had the trombonist, the full band. And there's not really any plans for an album because I don't want to do an album yet.
Really?
No, I don't want to do an album. I like doing singles and I like doing EPs. And also, I feel like after albums, people are a lot more like able to go, so what's your new sound? And I like our sound. I like, and everything sounds different anyway. I think song-wise, it just depends who I'm nicking the riff off of when I'm writing or whose chords I'm nicking. But yeah, so there's not really any plans for an album. We'll just keep gigging and keep releasing singles, making funny little videos, and that's it.
Wonderful. Emily, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for the interview.
I'm Bimo, and that was our interview for today.
I'm not a lover, shaking my hips. I can't get too low when I do the dip. But I've fallen hard for this new dancing round. It's called the Strap Man, and it goes like this. I'm not a lady who can bust out